I was talking to an attorney in court one day, and he's telling me the story about this case that he's handling, and now it's approaching trial. And he turns to me and he says, "How much do you think my case is worth?" You want to know what I told him? And what shocked me when he gave me his thoughts about what he thought his case was worth? Come join me for a walk through the neighborhood as I share with you the answers to those questions. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney. He was telling me about a devastating case, a woman with horrible, horrible injuries. So now at the end of this recitation, this summary of the facts of the case, he turns to me and he says, "What do you think this case is worth?" So now I give him my answer. And he turns around, he says, "No, I think it's worth 3 times as much." Now, what did I tell him? I told him I thought the case was worth at least $1 million. And he turned to me and he said, "No, I think the case is worth at least $3 million. And I said to him, "Why do you think that?" He said to me something very, very interesting. He said, "I think the case is worth exactly what I can get them to pay." Now, that is a totally different answer than most attorneys would provide. Why? Because anytime someone says, "Hey, what's my case worth?" no one can give you a specific answer because everybody's case is different. There are so many different factors that go into determining how much a particular case is worth. Beginning with the age of the victim, the injured patient. How old is that person? You could have someone who undergoes a similar injury, but because they are different ages, now their injuries are going to affect them differently. Their disabilities are going to be significantly different. What are they no longer able to do that they were able to do before? How are their daily activities limited? Can they continue to work? What type of work were they doing? Do they have lost earnings? Those are all important factors to consider when evaluating how much a particular case is worth. In addition, the place, the venue where this case was pending, what county this was in, also is a factor in determining the value of a particular case. And there are many other factors as well. So there are economic damages, there are non-economic damages such as pain and suffering that go into evaluating the value of someone's case. So he was going based upon not what the true value of a case was, but rather the amount of money that he believed he could get for his client in terms of a settlement without having to go to trial. So I will share with you that I'm at a big disadvantage here. Here I am in court, he stops me in the middle of the hallway, and now after 2 or 3 minutes of telling me this story, he now asks my opinion. Why am I at a disadvantage? It's because I haven't done any research to determine what the value of similar cases have settled for. I have not been able to do any legal research to determine what other cases have gone to verdict for and, importantly, been upheld on appeal. These verdict searches and these settlement searches are critically important to understand what other similar cases with similar facts or at least similar injuries have ultimately resolved for. Now, just because another case has settled for $1 million, it doesn't mean that this case is worth $1 million. It could be worth 5 times as much, 10 times as much. The reality is that you need to do research to understand exactly why this particular case has a particular value. So here I am in the middle of the courthouse trying to understand why this attorney is telling me, no, Gerry, this case is worth at least 3 times more than what you think. And one of the reasons why he suggested that is because he had done the research. He had checked to see what other cases have settled for. He had checked to see what other cases with similar injuries had gone to verdict for and, importantly, been upheld on appeal. Now, what does that mean? It means that in those other cases, those went all the way to a verdict. And based upon the jury's verdict of giving the injured patient a particular amount of money, then after an appeal to determine whether or not that amount was appropriate, now that amount was upheld by the higher court, and that amount had to be paid. So based upon actual legal research, now he's telling me, listen, my case has this particular value. Now, all of this is academic. Why? Because it doesn't mean anything in terms of him actually being able to obtain that amount. Just asking for my opinion, I know he's going to do the same thing by stopping other attorneys that he knows in the courthouse and ask for their opinion as well. He's trying to get a consensus from experienced attorneys on what the value of his injuries are. So now he has a better understanding of how to approach settlement negotiations with his client's case. And in my opinion, I find that the best trial attorneys are the ones who actually try and do that. They try and get a consensus from other experienced attorneys about what they think the value of the case is and how they should approach negotiations. And again, it does not necessarily mean that that's how it's going to go or how it's ultimately going to wind up, but it's important to get an idea from other experienced attorneys on how to approach the settlement negotiations and what they think ultimately the case will wind up settling for, or what at least the value of those injuries. So why do I share this quick information with you? I share it with you just to give you an insight and an understanding into what goes on in these medical malpractice cases, these accident cases, and even wrongful death cases in the state of New York. You know, I recognize you're likely watching this because you have questions or concerns about your own matter. Well, if your matter did happen in New York and you are thinking about bringing a lawsuit, but haven't done so because you still have questions that need to be answered, what I invite you to do is pick up the phone and call me. You know, I answer questions like yours every single day, and I'd love to chat with you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at Oginski-law.com. That's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a fantastic day.